Over the last couple of weeks, I've seen a number of demos of moving headlights and X-lights. Gil did a great one for the Newcastle Mini. But as we've gone through them, we've come across a number of DMX devices who use a particular channel to do things like set a gobo to a particular pattern, or some that use, instead of using a RGB color, 3 sets of channels, just use a single channel, and different ranges on that channel represent different colors that the light goes to, usually with a color wheel, but not only with a color wheel. And I guess I wanted to come up with a way to enable you to very easily set those things in X-lights. Now, you could always do it using the DMX effect and setting it to a particular value, or setting maybe using the on effect and setting it to a particular value. But I guess I wanted a slightly different way, and I thought that the state effect might be able to do it. So in 2017.16, I've enabled the state effect on the DMX models, and I wanted to demo some of the ways in which you can set that up. So what we have here is we have a DMX model. It's not a real one, it's an artificial one. I've just allocated 4 channels. Pan and tilt I've defined as channels 1 and 2. Every other channel I've pretty much left unmentioned, but I have gone in and named the channels. And so I've said that, look, I'll make channel 3 my gobo and channel 4 my color. Now, the way in which these would typically work is a value, let's say, of 10 might set the gobo to one particular pattern, and maybe when you go to 20, it would be a different one, 30 a different one, or maybe they go up in ones, I don't know. It's going to vary according to your light. And the same with color. Typically, you'd have a certain range of values would be red, a certain range of values would be blue, and so on up. And it would change that color. But we're just going to pick particular colors and call them red, etc., and so on. So the way I was thinking that we would do this is we would go into the states, and we will add in a set of states for our moving head states. And let's go and add some states. So let's imagine we want a state called red, and it's going to impact on the color channel, and we need to set on this 4 color custom channels. And what we need to do is we need to set the color that that color channel needs to set with to do red. Now, we don't really have an easy way to do that, but you can click on the color, double click on the color thing in here, and define a custom color. And let's imagine that red is a value of 20. And what we do is we set both the red, the green, and the blue channel to be 20, and we click OK. And now it's just going to show up here. That's obviously a very dark grey, almost black, but that's set at the value 20. And then let's imagine that blue as a colour, and let's imagine that's, I don't know, let's imagine that's 30. I actually let's make it a little bit different. Let's make it 40. Just make the differences a little bit more noticeable. And then we'll come in, and I don't know. Now, this is not red, green, blue. So this is a color wheel, for instance. So it might have numerous colors on it. So let's imagine that yellow is 60. So again, we come in here, we set it to 60, 60, and 60. You have to set all 3. If you just set one of them, it doesn't work. I don't know, magenta maybe, to set that color. And this one might be 80. You can imagine with each of these values that the color wheel spins around inside the moving head spot. What haven't we done yet? We haven't done green. So let's do green. Grab a color, oops. And we'll set this one to be, I don't know, what are we up to, 100. Okay, now you can only obviously have one value at a time, so you can't mix colors with these sort of color wheel type things. Now, the second thing is the gobos. So let's imagine we have a gobo called dots, and we're going to set that gobo, and I don't know. Again, similar sort of thing. We have to define it to be a particular value. Let's imagine it's 20. Okay. And then maybe we have another one called swirl on my gobo. And we're going to make this one, I don't know, let's make it something really different. I don't know, 100. And that's all I'll set up for now. Okay, so we've got some gobos and we've got some colors. Now, I also want to do, let's imagine this is a spotlight and that in certain elements I want to, maybe I want to swivel my spotlight around and I want to put it on I don't know, a Santa Claus or a reindeer, etc. So let's create a state called Santa. And there's obviously pan and tilt. I have to get those exactly right. So let's create a state called Santa Pan, and we'll put that on a pan channel. And let's imagine in order to be pointing at Santa, the pan value needs to be, I don't know, 127. Now, obviously that's not enough to aim it at Santa. We need a tilt as well. So let's also put in a Santa tilt. And we'll put that on the tilt channel. And let's imagine that needs to be, I don't know, something really high, like 200. Okay. And let's program in, I don't know, maybe I've got a reindeer pan. And when we pan to the reindeer is a long way away. So we'll set him to, I don't know, let's leave him on 255. That's a good place for the reindeer pan. And obviously we need a reindeer tilt. And we have to put that on the tilt channel. And here we'll put it at, I don't know, something small, 10. Okay. And obviously you'd need to go and set your spotlight up and check to see which value actually points the spot exactly at your reindeer and exactly at your Santa. And now what I want to be able to do in my show is I want to be able to set the color of this spotlight. I want to be able to set the gobo. And every now and then I want to be able to just tell the light to go and point at Santa or go and point at the reindeer without having to go and fiddle around with lots of values that are really hard to see. So we'll do that and we'll save that. Obviously you can export this or copy it and paste it and it will keep all of those values. So let's go over to our sequencer. So here's our sequencer. We have the DMX model dropped on it. If we increase this, you can see the pan causes it to pan, and you can see in the sliding bar the value as it increases. Same with the tilt, same with the gobo. But remember, the gobo, you'd have to know exactly which value to set it to, which is kind of hard to use. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to our timing track here, and we're going to insert some timing marks. Because the way the state effect works, that would help. The way the state effect works is it works off a timing track. So if I wanted the head to be red here and green here, I could do that. If I wanted it to be, now I need to remember what I called it. What are my states? I call it dots and swirl. Okay, so if I wanted it to be magenta and dots, I could do something like that. And if I wanted this to point at Santa, I could do Santa pan and tilt was the other one, wasn't it? Like that. And now what I need to do is I need to go up and I need to grab the state effect. Put it up on the model level. I have to point it at the appropriate timing track, and you can see already that it's grayed some things in as it's gone into things. Now, by default, this is in the default mode. What the default modes means is when it gets to each state, it's going to take that state or all of the states and apply all of them to the model at once. So, for instance, if I throw, if I, what's the best way to do this? If I insert a layer below, and if I throw an off effect in there so that we can see it. Okay, so this is red. So you'll notice that the color channel has got 20, I think that probably is, which is exactly what we said red was. If we move the off effect over, I could probably go and drop a different off effect on each one, to be honest. Now let me quickly do that. Off, off, and off. Okay, so when it was red, the color channel was slightly on red. When it was green, obviously the color channel changed to a new value. This is magenta, and I think it was spots. And so you can see the gobo channel's now been set with a value. And then over here, notice how the head jumps to a position. And that's because we set these two positions. So this has moved their head to point at my Santa without me having to fiddle around with changing settings and remember them. I just have to change it. So if I decide, actually, I don't want it to point at Santa at this point, what I would prefer that it did was point at a reindeer. Remember, it's pointing upwards. And so we changed that, and now it's pointing over to the other side, which is where the reindeer is. So very easy ways to do it. The other thing I would show that you can do is if you want to cycle through some colors, maybe I want to go red, green, blue, and yellow. Obviously, it can't be all those colors at once, but I can also drop a state effect on here. And I can change it away from default to iterate. And what it will do is it will iterate through each of those values. So you can see the color channel is changing over the duration. And if you see here, you can see that there's different shades of gray, and it's all broken up into 4 because there's 4 colors up here. So a very simple way to use the state effect and a bunch of labels to directly set the values in a user-friendly and easy to read way to control a moving headlight where you've got some channels where very particular values mean very particular things. So you could also imagine using a shutter channel and an on and an off, although generally those things are pretty straightforward. But in the case of these colors and these gobos, it can be hard to remember what each value is. And this way you program it all into X lights. And if you forget what gobo settings are available, you can always jump back to the model and look at which states you've defined. Now, the state effect only allows you to define 40 different states per model. So hopefully 40 is enough for you. If people start to run into problems there, I'm sure we could add more. It just slightly increases the size of our RGBFX file. So that'll all be out in 2017.16. Thanks, guys.